The great hall of the Galactic Council glittered like a sea of glass and light. Thousands of alien eyes watched from their crystal seats, whispering in languages that shimmered through the air like cold wind. At the center of the stage stood a single figure, a human. He looked small under the towering ceiling, a creature from a forgotten world. His name was Elias Ward, the last musician of Earth. His clothes were plain, his eyes quiet. Around him floated judges from 50 worlds, each more advanced than the last. And every one of them was certain the human did not belong there. Before him rested the Xenotone, a beautiful alien instrument made of living crystal and sound light. Its surface pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat beneath glass. The Xenotone was said to be alive, and only the most emotionally evolved beings could make it sing. To others, it stayed silent. Today, Elias had been called here as a joke. On the far end of the stage, an alien with silver skin and 4 eyes leaned forward, smirking. His name was Varin, a composer from the Luthari Empire, the race that invented the Xenotone. "Play for us, human," Varin said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Show us how primitive emotion sounds." The audience laughed, a cold, shimmering sound that echoed through the hall. Elias didn't react. He just looked down at the instrument, tracing its glowing strings with his eyes. It wasn't the first time he'd been mocked. When Earth fell years ago, burned and broken after the resource wars, music had been forgotten. Humanity scattered into colonies, serving under alien command. And now Elias stood as a curiosity, a relic of a dying race chosen to amuse the powerful. The council leader, a tall being with glassy wings, spoke. "Begin, human. If the Xenotone accepts you, we will listen. If not, leave quietly." Elias nodded. He took a deep breath. His fingers hovered over the strings. Silence filled the room. Every alien eye locked on him, waiting for the failure they expected. The Xenotone's faint hum dimmed, as if refusing to wake. Elias closed his eyes. In that moment, he wasn't standing before 1,000 alien judges. He was back on Earth. He could almost feel the wind over the ruined cities, smell the smoke, and hear the faint echo of a piano his mother once played in their small home. He touched the first string. A faint vibration rippled through the air, soft, fragile. Then another, and another. The sound was not like alien music. It was raw, human. It carried weight, memories, pain, love, loss. At first, the audience laughed again. But then, something strange happened. The Xenotone began to glow. Not faintly this time, brightly, alive. The crystal beneath Elias's fingers pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Each note grew warmer, deeper, echoing through the hall like waves over water. The mocking voices quieted. Varin's smirk faded. His second set of eyes blinked, confused. "That shouldn't be possible," he whispered. The Xenotone was reacting to a human. Elias kept playing. His eyes were closed, his face calm, but his hands moved with quiet fire. The sound grew into something none of them had ever heard. A melody of sorrow and hope woven together. It carried memories of a dying Earth, of children who never saw the stars, of oceans that once sang to the moon. For the first time in the Galactic Council's history, the hall was silent. Aliens who had never known what grief felt like now felt their hearts tighten. Creatures made of metal felt warmth they couldn't explain. Even Varin's cold composure cracked. One by one, the glowing lights around the hall dimmed, not in protest, but in reverence. Elias finished the final note. It lingered in the air, fading into a silence so heavy that no one dared breathe. Then the Xenotone, as if alive, released a final soft tone on its own, like a sigh. Elias slowly stood, his hands trembling slightly. "I played what I remembered," he said quietly. "Not from music, but from home." No one spoke. No one laughed. Even the council leader looked shaken. "The Xenotone has never responded like this." Elias gave a small nod. Maybe it remembered something too. The silence held for a long moment. And then, without another word, he turned and began to walk off the stage. Behind him, the Xenotone still glowed faintly, a soft golden light, pulsing with the rhythm of a human heart. And in the endless expanse of the galaxy, where logic and perfection ruled, one simple, imperfect melody had done what no empire ever could. It made them feel human. The hall remained quiet long after Elias left the stage. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council was speechless. The Xenotone still glowed faintly where he had played, humming with a soft golden rhythm. No one understood what they had witnessed, or how a human could make an ancient alien instrument feel. Varin, the Luthari composer, stared at the instrument as if it had betrayed him. His silver skin shimmered with cold anger. "That was manipulation," he said finally. "A trick." "Humans are clever mimics, that's all," the council murmured in uneasy agreement. Emotion was not something aliens feared, but losing control of it was. And Elias Ward had done the impossible. He had made them feel. Varin turned toward the council leader. "I propose a challenge," he said. "If the human truly played with emotion, let him prove it again, under supervision. If not, his species will be banned from all cultural assemblies. Forever." The leader's crystal wings shifted in the dim light. "And the terms?" Varin's 4 eyes gleamed. "He will play again. Not for us, but against us." The summons Elias was staying in a small chamber deep within the council spire. The walls were smooth, the air thin, and the silence heavy. He sat by the window, looking out at the endless stars. When the door opened, a soft blue light flooded in. It was Terra, a young Ethran translator. Her translucent skin shimmered faintly, like liquid glass. She had been the only alien who hadn't laughed during his performance. "They've called for you again," she said quietly. Elias looked up. "I guess they would," Terra hesitated. "Varin wants a re-performance. But this time he will play beside you, and the Xenotone will decide whose soul it follows." Elias smiled faintly. "So it's not a test." "It's a duel," Terra tilted her head. "In a way, yes. But the Xenotone reacts to truth, not talent. Be careful. Many who force it have been burned by its resonance." He nodded slowly. "I don't force music. I remember it." Her glass-like eyes softened. "Then remember something worth surviving for. The duel begins. Hours later, the hall filled again. This time, there was no laughter. The air was heavy, expectant. 2 Xenotones floated side by side, one glowing faint blue for Varin, the other faint gold for Elias. The council leader raised a hand. "Begin," Varin struck first. His music was perfect, sharp, flawless, calculated. Each note twisted with precision, building layers of rhythm and light. The Xenotone responded eagerly, flashing brilliant blue. The crowd murmured in approval. Elias listened quietly. Varin's melody was beautiful, but hollow. It was all intellect, no heart. Then it was his turn. He didn't rush. He didn't posture. He simply closed his eyes, placed his fingers on the Xenotone, and breathed in. The first note that came out was soft, trembling, like the whisper of a child's memory. It spread through the hall slowly, wrapping around Varin's perfect rhythm like a ghost. The 2 melodies clashed, alien perfection versus human imperfection, but something strange began to happen. The Xenotone between them started to merge their sounds. The blue and gold lights twisted together, fighting, then blending. The hall flickered with color. Varin's fingers moved faster. "You can't overpower precision with emotion," he hissed. Elias didn't answer. His music deepened, painting images in the listeners' minds. Not words, not thoughts, but feelings. They saw storms over oceans, hands reaching through flame, a mother humming to a child. For the first time in his life, Varin's rhythm faltered. The Xenotone's blue began to fade. Elias's voice was quiet, barely above the music. "You built this instrument to measure emotion," he said. "But you forgot what emotion feels like." The last note he played was unlike any sound they had ever heard. It didn't vibrate, it ached. The air thickened. Some aliens clutched their chests, feeling something close to sorrow for the first time. Others bowed their heads, overwhelmed. Varin dropped his hands. His Xenotone went dark. Elias's continued to glow, soft, steady, alive. The aftermath, silence again. Then a slow, quiet sound. A single alien began to clap. Then another. And another. Not in mockery this time, but in respect. The council leader rose, voice trembling slightly. "Human, what do you call that piece?" Elias thought for a long moment. "It's not a piece," he said softly. "It's a memory of Earth. I call it the Last Dawn." Tara watched from the edge of the stage, her eyes bright with something new. Admiration. Varin, however, stood motionless. His pride was shattered, but deeper than that, something else stirred inside him, the faint, painful spark of humanity. As Elias turned to leave, the council leader spoke once more. "The Xenotone has chosen. Humanity will not be forgotten." Elias paused, looking back. "It was never about being remembered," he said. "It was about being heard." He walked away slowly, the Xenotone's soft golden hum following him, the sound of one man's heart echoing through a galaxy that had forgotten what a soul sounded like. Long after the duel ended, the melody lingered. Even when the galactic hall emptied, even when the last light dimmed, the Xenotone on the stage still hummed faintly, a golden pulse, slow and rhythmic, like the breath of something alive. No one understood what was happening. The Xenotone had never behaved this way before. It was an instrument, not a living being, not a creature capable of will. And yet every few seconds it released a soft tone, the same one Elias had played at the end of his song. The tone carried through the council spire, through the city, through the thin layers of the planet's atmosphere, and beyond. It echoed into the void. The scientists' discovery on the far edge of the council world. In an observatory station orbiting the planet's rings, Dr. Celian Kor, a Rhinari physicist, froze at her console. "Impossible," she whispered. Her instruments had begun to detect strange waveforms, musical frequencies spreading through the void faster than light. But they weren't just sound. They were data, emotion, structure. She zoomed in on the readings. The waveform repeated a pattern, rising and falling like a heartbeat. Origin. "Council spire, central chamber," she murmured. "That's the Xenotone frequency." Her assistant blinked. "A malfunction." Celian shook her head slowly. "No, it's broadcasting." Elias in the quiet room, meanwhile, Elias sat alone in his chamber. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It vibrated faintly, like the walls themselves were humming with the same tone he had played. He frowned, placing a hand against the metal wall. "You hear it too, don't you?" The air pulsed gently in response, as if answering. He smiled faintly, though unease crept in. "Guess music travels farther than I thought." Tara entered quietly, holding a small device in her hand. Her usual calm was gone. Her eyes flickered with a strange mix of fear and wonder. "It's spreading," she said softly. "What is?" "Your song. The Xenotone won't stop resonating. Every linked instrument across the galaxy is singing it." Elias looked up. "You mean there are more?" She nodded. "Thousands. The Luthari built them as conduits. They resonate across subspace when played. But no one ever triggered a network response before. Until you." He stood, feeling a chill run through him. "So it's echoing everywhere?" "Everywhere," she said. "And it's changing things. The awakening on distant worlds." Strange phenomena began to appear. In the deep caverns of Varin's homeworld, ancient Xenotones, instruments thought long dead, began to hum again, glowing softly in golden light. In colonies far beyond council space, humans who had never heard Elias play suddenly woke in the middle of the night, tears in their eyes, whispering fragments of the melody as if it came from a dream. Machines malfunctioned. Creatures paused mid-motion, listening to a sound that wasn't meant for them. The galaxy, for the first time, was listening back. Varin's realization Varin couldn't sleep. The melody haunted him. He sat in his study, surrounded by data scrolls and glowing spheres of notation, trying to analyze what Elias had done. Every simulation failed. Every model broke down. "This isn't music," he muttered. Its memory turned into sound. He touched his Xenotone, the one that had rejected him. It glowed faintly gold now, not blue. He froze. "No," he whispered. "It shouldn't respond to me," but it did. He pressed one string hesitantly. The sound that came out wasn't perfect. It cracked. It trembled. But it felt. For the first time in his life, Va-Rin understood what it meant to play with a heart, not just a mind. He sat back, shaken. "What did you do, human?" The message back in the council spire, the scientists were panicking. Every Xenotone across the known galaxy was now resonating at the same emotional frequency. Ships passing through hyperspace reported visions, flashes of memory, as if the music itself was rewriting their neural patterns. Tara rushed into Elias's chamber again, breathless. "It's not just spreading and it's calling something." Elias looked at her, calm but focused. "Calling?" She nodded, showing him a holographic projection. A massive region of deep space, previously silent, now pulsed faintly in rhythm with his melody. "Something ancient is responding to your song," she said. "Something older than the council itself." He stared at the projection quietly. "Then maybe it's not my song," he said. "Maybe it's theirs. And I just reminded them how it went." The unknown response hours later, the first signals arrived, deep in uncharted space. Long-range probes captured a faint transmission, a sound, almost like a voice, harmonizing with the Xenotone's tone. The translation algorithms failed to interpret it, but one thing was clear. It was trying to communicate. The council convened again, this time without laughter. Va-Rin stood among them, his arrogance gone. "The human didn't just play music," he said. "He woke up something in the galaxy, maybe in all of us." The council leader turned to Tara. "Find him. We need to know what he's done." But Elias was already gone. His chamber was empty, the Xenotone missing. On the window, drawn in condensation, were 6 simple words. "Music is just memory, shared." And as the echo continued to spread through the stars, every world that heard it felt the same strange sensation, a warmth in their chest, a tear they couldn't explain. Something in the universe was listening, and for the first time in countless ages, it was answering. The galaxy did not sleep that night. Across countless systems, strange music rippled through space, a golden resonance that defied physics and logic. It wasn't just sound. It was something alive, something that reached not through air, but through memory itself. Every being who heard it felt the same thing: warmth, sorrow, and a wordless recognition that they were part of something ancient. The Xenotone network had become a voice. And now, something out there was answering back. The council's panic inside the Galactic Council chamber. Chaos reigned. Screens and holograms flashed with unreadable data. Communication officers shouted in a dozen alien tongues. The council leader's glassy wings trembled with light as he tried to maintain control. "This frequency, it's replicating itself," one scientist yelled. It's learning." Va-Rin stood in the corner, silent. The melody still echoed faintly in his mind, haunting but beautiful. He could feel it now, not as noise, but as a pulse under his skin. Tara entered with a grim expression. "We've traced the signal. It's not coming from our galaxy anymore." The council leader turned sharply. "Explain." "It's traveling beyond, into the dark sectors, the ones our probes never returned from." The hall fell quiet. Everyone knew those sectors by another name: the grave silence, a void of dead stars, where old civilizations had vanished without a trace. And now, something there was singing back, Elias's journey far from the council world. A small human ship drifted through the quiet. Inside, Elias sat at the console, the Xenotone floating beside him like a patient friend. He had left without permission. He didn't know where he was going, only that the melody kept pointing him somewhere in the dark. Each note he played guided his ship, pulling him toward the source of the answering song. He smiled faintly. "Guess you're not done talking, huh?" The Xenotone pulsed softly, golden light reflecting in his eyes. Outside the window, stars began to thin. The darkness ahead wasn't empty. It shimmered faintly, like ink mixed with light. He felt it, a presence. Not hostile, not alive in the usual way, but aware, the voice of the void. Suddenly, the Xenotone began to vibrate violently. Elias steadied it with both hands. "Easy," he murmured. A sound filled the ship. Not a voice, not quite words, more like a memory of one. He froze as the translation system flickered to life. The message formed slowly, painfully, as if pulled from the edge of time itself. "We remember you," Elias's breath caught. "Who are you?" The lights flickered again. "The ones who heard first, the makers of song, we are what remains. Of the galaxies before yours." He stared at the Xenotone, heart pounding. "You mean, you built this?" "We built the idea of it," the voice said. "Sound carries memory. Emotion carries truth. You're kind, remembered." Elias blinked, overwhelmed. "You're saying humans somehow reawakened your creation?" "Not humans, you," the Xenotone flared brightly, flooding the cabin in gold. The lost civilization images poured into Elias's mind. Flashes of cities made of light, beings that communicated through sound alone, entire worlds singing in harmony across galaxies, and then silence, a collapse. "We tried to preserve our essence," the voice continued, "but only emotion could cross eternity. Only music survived." Elias gripped the console. "And now you're coming back? Not as we were, but through those who can feel what we felt, through those who remember pain and still create beauty." He sat in stunned silence. Tears burned in his eyes. "That's humanity." "Yes," the voice said gently. "You are what remains of us, the echo we left in flesh." Back at the council's instruments went wild. "Something's happening," Celian Core reported. "A massive wave is coming through subspace, same pattern as the Xenotone network." "Is it an attack?" Someone shouted. "No," she whispered. "It's music." Every Xenotone in the galaxy began to glow, gold, silver, and blue, joining in harmony. The sound was indescribable, beautiful beyond words. Varin dropped to his knees as the resonance filled his chest. "He's not just playing anymore," he said. "He's conducting the galaxy." The song of remembrance. In the dark between stars, Elias played one final note. The Xenotone responded, sending a pulse through the void, a wave of sound that expanded faster than light, touching every world, every heart. On human colonies, children stopped crying. On alien planets, machines paused to listen. And in the grave silence, something vast stirred. Not a creature, but a memory of a civilization that refused to die. Tara, watching from the council's observation window, whispered, "He's bringing them back." Varin shook his head softly. "No. He's reminding the universe what it lost." The return. Then the stars began to sing. Each one released a faint harmonic tone, synchronized with Elias's melody. The galaxy glowed like an instrument come alive, every beam of light vibrating in rhythm. Elias watched it all through the viewport, tears streaming down his face. He whispered, "You never left. You were always here, waiting for someone to listen." The voice in the Xenotone answered softly, "And now we remember through you." As the golden light spread across the stars, the galaxy that once mocked a human musician now bowed in silence, because one man, with one song, had reconnected life itself to the sound of feeling. The galaxy had changed. The stars still burned. The world still turned, but everything felt different now. After Elias's final song, every Xenotone in the known universe glowed faintly with golden light, each one humming the same memory, the melody of life. For a while, it brought peace. Entire systems that had fought for centuries stopped to listen. Soldiers laid down their weapons, overcome by emotions they didn't understand. But peace is fragile, and power never goes unnoticed. Soon, fear began to whisper. The fear in the council chambers, arguments echoed like thunder. This "Infection must be contained," shouted Admiral Korvek of the Yeldran fleet. His scaled face glimmered with cold anger. "The Xenotone's resonance is rewriting neural pathways. Civilizations are losing control of their people." Varin rose slowly from his seat. His voice, once proud, was softer now. "It's not control, Admiral. It's awakening. For the first time, they're feeling what they've forgotten." "Feeling?" Korvek sneered. "That's weakness. Entire fleets are refusing orders. Workers abandon factories to stare at the sky and cry. This song is tearing our empires apart." The council leader's crystalline wings shimmered uneasily. "And what of the human who caused this?" Varin's gaze lowered. "Elias Ward has disappeared into the dark sectors. No trace." "Then we find him," the Admiral growled. "Before this resonance infects the entire galaxy." The human echo while the council plotted. Something else began to happen. Across scattered human colonies, people started to hear the Xenotone melody in their dreams. Some woke up speaking words in languages older than recorded time. Others began building small replicas of the Xenotone, guided by something they couldn't explain. They called it the echo, and those who could hear it clearly began to change. They spoke with calm voices, radiated strange empathy, and could sense each other across light years. The media called them resonance, but to the fearful powers of the galaxy, they were a threat. The hunt in the frozen orbit of Vega 9, a fleet of Yeldran warships cut through the void like blades. Their sensors were locked on a single human vessel. Small, unarmed, glowing faint gold. Inside that ship, Elias sat at the console, eyes closed, listening. He could feel the tension growing across the stars. Fear feeding anger. Anger feeding war. The Xenotone floated beside him, its light dimmer now, as if exhausted. "They're coming," he said softly. The voice that answered was faint, ancient, and full of sorrow. "They fear what they do not understand." "As they always have," Elias nodded. "Then I'll make them understand." The battle of frequencies, the Yeldran fleet fired first, beams of blue plasma streaking through the void. But as the weapons closed in, Elias pressed his hand on the Xenotone. A note, deep, pure, golden, echoed through space. The plasma bolts slowed mid-flight and dissolved into light. The shockwave of sound rippled outward, passing through the warships like a soft breeze. Inside, soldiers froze, memories flooding their minds. Images of their childhoods, their first loves, the moments they stopped feeling. Many dropped their weapons, trembling. Some wept. One captain whispered, "What is this?" A quiet voice filled the ship's comms. "It's the sound of what you lost, the splintering. Not everyone surrendered. On distant worlds, powerful factions began building devices to block the resonance. They feared losing control of their people, feared the idea of a galaxy that could feel together. They called their movement the Silent Core. The Silent Core spread fast. They promised to restore order, to silence the song forever. They saw Elias as a weapon, or worse, a god that needed to be erased. Meanwhile, the resonance, humans and aliens who had accepted the music, formed something new. They didn't build fleets. They built choirs, ships that traveled through space, singing the harmonic code that kept peace alive. The galaxy was dividing into two kinds of beings, those who felt and those who feared. The message to the council back in the council chambers, Tara stood before the leaders, holding a recording. The last message Elias had sent before vanishing. She placed it on the table. A soft hum filled the air, followed by his calm voice. "I didn't come to break your order. I came to remind you that perfection without emotion is death. You built walls of silence. I just opened a window. Don't close it again," the message ended. Silence followed. Varin looked around the chamber. "You can't fight a song," he said quietly. "You can only learn to listen." The council leader's voice trembled. "And if we don't?" Varin met his gaze. "Then the galaxy will go deaf again." The gathering storm far beyond their reach, Elias's ship drifted near a dying star. The Xenotone pulsed faintly in his lap. He whispered, "They're going to fight over it." "They must choose," the ancient voice replied. "Silence or harmony, fear or understanding." Elias looked out at the burning horizon. Then I'll play again. One last time. He touched the Xenotone, and somewhere across the galaxy, the resonance felt it. Their hearts aligned. Their voices rose. The silent core began mobilizing fleets, and the stars themselves seemed to tremble, waiting for the war of sound to begin. Space had never been so quiet. It wasn't peace. It was fear. The resonance, the golden sound that once united hearts, was fading. Across the galaxy, the silent core tightened its grip. They built towers of silence, giant machines that swallowed every echo of the Xenotone's melody. Worlds that once sang now stood still. In the darkness between stars, Elias Ward drifted alone. His small ship had no destination, only purpose. The Xenotone rested beside him, cracked and dim, its glow barely breathing. He could still feel it, millions of souls calling out across the void. Some in harmony, some in terror. All waiting for him, he whispered, "It's dying, isn't it?" The Xenotone pulsed weakly, answering with a hum so faint it felt like a heartbeat. "No, Elias, it's choosing." The two paths in a hidden system, the resonance gathered, humans and aliens who had accepted the music. They lived without hierarchy, guided by empathy and shared emotion. They believed the Xenotone was never just an instrument. It was a mirror of consciousness itself. At the same time, in the heart of the galactic core, the Silent Council held its strongest fortress, Nerath Prime. There, the Silent Core's leader, Admiral Korvek, prepared the final weapon, the null wave, a sound-destroying pulse powerful enough to erase the Xenotone's frequency from existence. "This war ends tonight," he growled. "If we cannot control the song, we will destroy it." The last message back in the resonant base, Tara stood before a crowd of hundreds. Her voice shook, but her eyes burned bright. "Elias gave the galaxy a gift," she said, "and we turned it into a battlefield. But he's still out there, searching for the final note. The note that can heal everything." Someone from the crowd asked, "What if he fails?" Tara smiled sadly. "Then we sing for him." Across the hall, lights dimmed. Resonance of all species, human, avian, crystalline, began humming softly. The same golden tone that once moved galaxies now trembled through the hall like a promise. But far away, Korvek watched the broadcast with disgust. "Emotional parasites," he spat. "They will drown the galaxy in chaos." He turned to his officers. "Charge the null wave." Elias and the dead star Elias had reached a dying red star, one of the oldest in the known systems. The Xenotone's hum grew stronger here, as if something ancient had been waiting beneath the light. He placed his hands on the instrument. For a long moment there was silence, then a voice spoke through the static of his ship's comms. "You brought feeling to the soulless. You gave meaning to machines, but music alone cannot save them." Elias froze. He knew that voice. It was Va-Rin, the alien scholar who had once mocked him, then defended him before the council. "Va-Rin?" Elias whispered. "How did you—" "The council is gone. The core consumes everything now. Elias, they're coming for you. They mean to erase the Xenotone and you from time." Elias looked out at the red star. "Then I'll play one last song before they arrive. If you do, you might end everything." Elias smiled faintly. "Or begin again." The storm arrives. Moments later, the blackness of space tore open. Dozens of warships emerged, the Silent Core's fleet. Korvek's flagship loomed largest, its hull etched with symbols of silence. "Target locked," an officer announced. Korvek's eyes burned cold. "End the noise!" The null-wave cannon charged, a sphere of pure stillness, devouring sound, color, and light itself. Elias sat calm, fingers resting on the Xenotone. He could feel the frequencies rising across the galaxy, millions of resonants singing for him. He closed his eyes and began to play, the song of two futures. The first note shattered the silence. It wasn't loud, but it was alive. It carried emotion so pure that even machines hesitated. The sound spread faster than light, weaving through every channel, every heartbeat, every molecule of space. Korvek's fleet trembled. Some soldiers screamed. Some dropped to their knees, memories flooding back. Laughter, family, warmth. But the null wave continued to grow. Two waves now collided. Silence versus song, fear versus feeling. Elias's ship shook violently. The Xenotone cracked open, spilling streams of golden energy. The two frequencies began to merge, one trying to erase, the other trying to connect. Reality warped. Planets flickered. Time twisted. For a moment, the entire galaxy heard itself, and in that moment, every being saw a choice. One future, cold, perfect order, a galaxy without chaos, but without emotion. The other, imperfect, unpredictable, full of pain, but alive. The choice Elias felt his body fading, his voice merging with the Xenotone's light. They have to choose. And if they don't? The Xenotone asked. Then I'll choose for them. He struck one final note, pure, impossible, infinite. The null wave shattered. The fleets fell silent. The red star flared brighter than ever before, bursting into waves of gold. Every resonant across the galaxy gasped. They felt him. Elias Ward was no longer a man. He had become the sound itself. The war ended in light. But no one knew what world would emerge after. The dawn. After sound, when the light faded, the fleets were gone. The star burned anew, younger, brighter. On distant worlds, people woke up crying, laughing, holding each other, without knowing why. The silence had been broken. Some said Elias died. Others believed he had become the first being to resonate beyond matter, and far away, drifting among the stars. A faint golden melody could still be heard, soft, eternal, waiting for those brave enough to listen. The galaxy had forgotten what silence felt like. After the war of frequencies, after the blinding storm of light and sound, the stars seemed different, brighter, gentler, as if they were humming to themselves. The faint memory of a song no one could fully recall. Elias Ward was gone, but his melody remained, echoes. Of the golden light in the months that followed, survivors across 1,000 systems told the same story. They said, sometimes at night, the air sings. Farmers on dusty human colonies heard the hum of crops swaying in rhythm. Alien children on floating cities whispered that the rivers now carried music. Even the machines, once cold, unfeeling, responded differently. When a resonant approached, their circuits pulsed in time with unseen frequencies. Something fundamental had changed, not just in space, but in life itself. The search for Elias Terra never stopped searching. Every day, she tuned her instruments, scanning for that faint golden tone. Most nights there was nothing. But sometimes, a flicker. A heartbeat in the dark. She believed it was him. The council had long since dissolved. The old empires were rebuilding, slowly, cautiously, guided by the resonance. The silent core had vanished into myth, its remnants scattered among dead satellites and ghost fleets. But one rumor persisted, that somewhere beyond the edge of mapped space, a single ship still drifted, surrounded by soft, eternal music. They called it the Vessel of Echoes, and the man inside it, the first resonant, the awakening planet. One day, Terra's sensors caught something strange, a pulse, repeating, rhythmic, unmistakably human. She followed it to a small, forgotten world bathed in golden mist. Its atmosphere shimmered with musical vibration, like a living sound wave. Landing her ship, she stepped into the glowing air. Every breath sang. Every step left ripples of light on the ground, and then she saw him, not as a man of flesh, but as a silhouette woven from radiant sound. His shape shifted with the notes, his voice a whisper carried on wind and frequency. "You found me," the voice said. Calm, warm, familiar. Terra trembled. "Elias, is that really you?" "Part of me," he answered. "What you knew as me, the human, ended when I struck the final note. But the melody became something else. It became life." The truth of the Xenotone Terra stepped closer. What was the Xenotone really? Was it built by aliens? Or by something older? Elias's light flickered softly like a smile. It was never built. It was found. A piece of the universe's first vibration, the sound that created matter itself. Every civilization that touched it tried to claim it, to use it as power. But the Xenotone doesn't want control. It wants connection. He paused. The air hummed with low, resonant tones. The galaxy had forgotten how to feel. So I reminded it. I became part of the original song, so that every being, every atom, could remember they're all notes in the same symphony. Tara's eyes filled with tears. Then why do you still call to us? Because the song is not finished. The final gift from the glowing air around him. A fragment of the Xenotone began to form, small, crystalline, shaped like a teardrop. It floated toward her, pulsing softly. This is the seed of resonance, Elias said. Give it to those who still hate. Let them hear the truth, not from me, but from each other. The next melody belongs to all of you. Tara took it, her hands trembling. The crystal vibrated with warmth, like holding someone's heartbeat. When she looked up, the golden light was fading. Elias! Don't mourn me, his voice echoed, fading into the wind. You can't lose what has become everything. And with that, the light scattered into the sky, transforming into 1,000 threads of golden sound that stretched across the horizon. Each one whispered the same thing. Feel, don't fear. A new dawn, years later. The galaxy entered a new age, no longer ruled by empires or machines, but by harmony. The resonance built the harmonic network, an invisible web that connected worlds through shared emotion, empathy, and sound. Wars became rare, trade flourished, and children were taught not history first, but harmony. In the center of the network stood a monument, not of stone, but of light. It played a continuous melody that never repeated, the living song of Elias Ward. When asked what it meant, Tara would smile and say, "It's what humanity gave the stars, the ability to feel." The legacy centuries passed. Species evolved. Empires rose and fell again. But the song never stopped. It traveled beyond the galaxy, beyond time, a whisper in the cosmic background radiation. Every so often, a newborn civilization would detect it and ask the same question: who first played the Xenotone? And somewhere in the golden frequency between starlight and silence, a faint human laugh would echo, gentle, eternal. Just someone who listened,